Hello everybody, Xyno here. Maybe late to this stupid rumor, and I'm already being hypocritical because in the last video I posted, I said I wouldn't do rumors, but I remember reading it somewhere, unless I fabricated this into my mind, but it's an obvious thing other people should be thinking about because Nintendo Switch is made and it's based off of NVIDIA's Tegra X1 hardware. NVIDIA has been recently delving back into the Tegra hardware, and they have their new Turing architecture, and we have the new Ampere architecture coming out. And to all the people who don't know that GPU jargon, things are getting more powerful, and we have new technology in the works here, which Nintendo might be able to take advantage of sometime soon. The big thing about Nintendo right now is it's incredibly underpowered. It's powerful for a mobile processor, very powerful, but it still leaves a lot of image quality and texture resolution and stuff like that to be desired, especially when they port current gen titles to this tiny little brick we call the Switch. My biggest, what do you call it? I'm not flowing so well off the video right now. I'm running off caffeine. I apologize. The biggest thing that people have been waiting for is a Switch Pro. You know, the upgraded, faster Switch, because we have technology today that lets us have higher battery life, more power I can't even think of the words right now. Even the upgraded iterations of the Tegra X1 architecture that they have boasts better battery life and slight graphical performance. Well, if they are iterating on the Tegra hardware with Ampere's architecture, we could definitely see a huge spike in battery performance. We could probably outweigh that with better graphics, and we can finally see what Turing architecture has been doing with Tensor Cores. And what would be really, really neat is if Nintendo would be smart and integrate NVIDIA's Tensor Cores. It doesn't have to be an extravagant amount. It could be a very minimal amount of Tensor Cores to be used in their titles. Because, let's face it, 4K, that's what's out today. Everything has to come out in 4K, unless you're on YouTube like me, uploading at 1080p. But 4K is the mainstream. It's on televisions, it's on our consoles. Our next-gen consoles will be heavily focused into 4K content, outputting it and everything. Well, with a 2.0 dock and a 2.0 Switch, the dock could upscale things to 4K. All's what the Switch would need to do is output a 720p image or a 1080p image and use the Tensor Cores to take advantage of NVIDIA's DLSS feature to artificially boost the resolution up to a higher proportion. And I find that would be really, really neat to see. And if you don't know what DLSS is, you might have seen it somewhere on the internet maybe a few times if you look up PC gaming. DLSS stands for Deep Learning Super Sampling, and it's a type of anti-aliasing that doesn't take a lot of power to really increase or sharpen the image of its natural resolution. Like, you've heard of anti-aliasing in games, you know, the things that get rid of the jaggy points in video games so that the images look sharper and smoother. What DLSS does is used AI-trained images to upscale a resolution that's lower than the output resolution. Yes, I know that's confusing. To make it better than if it was actually outputting that normal resolution. We've had tons of footage. I'm not going to bother throwing up here. You can actually delve into that later. But there's tons and tons of footage of games being played at like 1080p and using the DLSS, upscaling that 1080p to what would look like native 4K. A native 4K image, which is sharp. I've played games in 4K. I finally have a 4K TV. I know it's kind of sad. I have a high gaming PC, but it's for multiple monitors. But 4K images is nothing to be, you know, to shrug at. Those are sharp images, and to have that refresh 60 times a second would be phenomenal to see something like this little itty-bitty Switch to do, because there's a lot of games that could take advantage of it, especially with NVIDIA reiterating on DLSS to be its 2.0 version can take like 720p games and upscale them past 1080p to almost 1440p scale resolutions, which would still look really sharp on a 4K screen, especially if you're, you know, sitting in a living room playing this docked onto there. You know, they could disable the Tensor Cores while you're playing mobile, because it's not going to matter. You're playing on a 720p screen. It'll be sharp as it can get anyway. Or they could do something and just release like a dock that has Tensor Cores integrated into the dock. I can't pull out my dock here. I would love to show it. But if they were to just release a new dock with Tensor Cores that would artificially upscale your image to a higher resolution based on the video game that's being played, it'd be insane to sharpen all the games that are being played for the Nintendo Switch. Not to mention that it would increase performance in a lot of games because you could run them at a lower resolution but still maintain at least like that minimum 1080p image, because there are tons of games that are played on here that don't even hit like 720p if you're lucky. Games like Doom, Ark, Wolfenstein, there's a bunch of these ported AAA games that can barely run 720p while you're docked on the Switch. Now, don't even mention the mobile, that just runs it even lower. But if they were to keep those resolutions at around 640p, whatever you would want to call it, and use DLSS to upscale that to a native 1080p, keeping it sharp and keeping the performance level at least like 30 frames per second, it would be an acceptable way to play these AAA games these days. And it would be, I don't know, it just sounds like an overall amazing idea for them to present. The only challenge I could see that they would be trying to do is artificially retrofitting Tensor Cores into such a small device, because we do have like the RTX 2060, 2070, 2080 mobile editions that you can find on laptops. They have lower Tensor Core counts, but they can play really high resolutions thanks to the DLSS features in games that support it. Now, if Nintendo just issued patches to a bunch of the games that they already published on here, that would be insane to see games be played at higher resolutions, especially ones that already almost play at 1080p natively. Let's say you're playing ARMS or Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, while docked, runs at 900p. Imagine if they just added that Tensor Core dock, 900p using DLSS, you'd be playing Breath of the Wild almost in 4K right off the bat. No changes to the graphics, no changes to the lighting, nothing. You just get a sharper image and it plays exactly the same way. It's a win. You just get a better looking image. Oh my gosh, the fingerprints on here are everywhere. And I like how you can see Grand Theft Auto in the reflection there. It's Steam, it steams up. But it would be insane for them to figure out a way to implement that. Be that just the dock or a brand new Switch, because that would be a way to sell even more Switches all over again, especially people who kind of are graphics snobs like me, because I play my Switch a lot. But if I have the option to play a better version of the game and not play it mobile, I don't leave a lot anymore anyway, thanks to these trying times. And it would be cooler just to have everything you want in one little, system to go. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I know I'm late to the news on this rumor. If I remember, this is how the rumor went, but it would be insanely impressive to hear Nintendo do an announcement whenever because they have to make a Switch Pro sometime soon. But it would be even better if they actually released a Switch 2 or Pro or King, Queen, XL, Deluxe Edition with sponsored by EA, whatever they want to do, whatever they want to name the next Switch or upgrade Switch. They need to put DLSS 2.0. If they're still working with NVIDIA, that would be just fan-flippin-tastic. Sorry if I got your hippity-hoppity, your hopes up, because that's just like the best speculation. That's the best outcome we could get for a new Switch generation, and it gets me excited just thinking about it, because it sounds like, how could they do no wrong? How could they not do this? Hopefully they will. Hopefully is now my slogan on this channel. Hopefully. But let's just pray to the let's just pray to the gaming gods that they'll actually do this, because it would make the Switch so much more of an even investment for people who like taking games on the go and having games in one place, and like Nintendo and graphics, because it would just be an overall win, and it would help this Nintendo stay caught up into the next generation of consoles that are coming out. So hopefully they do this. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it kept you entertained. Hopefully I got your speculation out the roof and stuff. But I'm going to go find another video to do. Let's all hope, and if not, push Nintendo to do this, because if they don't, I'm going to keep trying to tell them to do it, because they should. They already have the technology. They just need to implement it. But again, I'm rambling. So Xyno will see you later, and I'll catch you guys later. Yeah, this is an awkward ending.